this virtual labs, they come up with a pre-test, post-test, and some basic data. Okay, so we have lots of MCQs here. We'll see what we can get from what is available. That is some gate-specific questions. What kind of questions can show up in gate MCQs from bioinstrumentation, and some basics on, okay, what is this underlying mechanism, underlying important physical detail we should be concerned about. That we'll see. So let's get started with this. So we cannot really tinker things as we do in multisim, but there are certain things we can do here. And yeah, the idea is make things more accessible. Can you all see the screen here? Welcome to Biomedical Science.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thanks. Okay. So list of experiments, electrocardiogram, electroencephalogram, electromyogram. So we have ECG, EEG, EMG. Then they claim to have defib, pacemaker, hemodialysis, biopotential amplifier. Then, okay, some ECG, there is a pulse missing in ECG, form a detector, and 12-lead ECG signals. Okay. So in fact, I am going to focus, let's focus on three things. Let's learn it properly. Let's look at defibrillator, let's look at pacemaker, and let's look at hemodialysis machine. The session is going to be very interactive, okay, as usual. In fact, typically more interactive than even our classes. Okay, quickly. So what is a defibrillator? What is a pacemaker? Can we quickly compare and contrast that? What is a defib? What is a pacemaker? Both of them have to do something with the heart, electrical activity in the heart. You could use a chat, or you could also use the audio.
The defibrillator, in the sense, it's a device which gives an electric shock to the heart, sir. Due to that high energy shock, it will save the life of some person during if he is having any cardiac arrest. This defibrillator could be used, sir.
Excellent. Okay.
But this pacemaker, in the sense, actually there is a natural pacemaker called SCA node within our heart, sir. If that SCA node, if there is any problem with that SCA node, artificially they will place a pacemaker in order to create an impulse from that SCA node. So instead of SCA node, this pacemaker could be used, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Thanks. Thanks, Meenakshi.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. See, notice our heart. We know how this heart propagation, conduction, and all that work. We have seen that in class, right? Okay. In fact, just because virtual lab doesn't allow us, doesn't mean that we have we cannot see some nice simulations. Yeah, this figure is good. Yeah, notice. Okay, we have 4 hearts here. So we have this mesh here. The geometry. I mean, just SolidWorks geometry. It's transparent, shows the walls, internal structures better. Then we have just a surface model of this mesh. Then we have actual finite element model where we can do simulations. The pattern here, look at the pattern here. It's like, nice, proper conduction. If you take a piece of metal, you heat this metal, the temperature is going to rise just like this, right? It's going to nicely propagate. So that is diffusion. So how things are close together kind of determine how even electrical activity in the heart propagates. We know about the SA node, AV node, the Purkinje fibers, the conduction system, His bundle, and all that. So the system is such that conduction propagates nicely so that the heart pumps synchronously. This pumping follows, contraction follows electrical excitation. And electrical excitation is usually very, very nice. That is, it gradually goes from one place of the heart to the other place of the heart. Almost like a symphony, almost like a music. But there is this thing called ventricular fibrillation. The ECG they have shown, so on, this. What actually happens in the heart is more close to this figure. So notice what is supposed to travel from either top to bottom or in a specific sequence in the heart. Now starts doing some confusional things. That is, now it starts forming spirals. This is like, see, this is how nice it's supposed to propagate from left to right the electrical activity within the heart medium. Okay, this is a demonstration in a 3D geometry. But during certain problems, it can start spiraling this activity. So this is, a clear path in your career. You know why you give gate your career profession. It's very clear. It's something like that. Here you are kind of confused whether engineering, biomedical engineering, IT, earning money, and all that, right? So this kind of spiraling, in fact, even that happens in a heart-like geometry. What is supposed to propagate very nicely now, kind of like almost like a turbulent wave in the heart. So this is ventricular fibrillation. That is, the ventricles, specifically in the ventricles, the electrical activity is spiraling. Okay, this point will stay there, almost like a cyclone. It will stay there, slightly moving here and there. It won't get out of the heart. Okay, so there is a distinction between this beat and next beat is not there. So this part is pumping, that part is pumping, and we have total chaos. So this, if you look at it in the ECG, it will look like this. We get a chaotic signal. Okay, and the way to correct this is give it a sufficiently high shock, right? That epiphanic moment when someone comes and corrects us. Okay, this is what you are supposed to do. Make up your mind. Okay, something like that. The heart needs such an impulse. So this is ECG signal, and we give a high shock, sufficiently high shock. If you give a small shock, that will disappear in that ocean, in that waves of it will disappear here. Throw a stone in a beach in waves. The stone disappears, right? But if the pond is still, you throw a stone, you can see the waves. Yeah, you throw something like a stone and all, nothing works. But you give a sufficiently strong signal, okay, then the heart gets back to normality. Then the chaos there goes away, and we start getting back regular rhythm where the propagation is nice. Okay, so this is what happens with ventricular fibrillation. In fact, this is something that at least in geometries like this, it's very, very easy to simulate. Later classes, I will show you how to simulate this and study this effect. You can play around with that. But today's class, so this is ventricular fibrillation. The device used to give that massive shock is a defibrillator. Then we have a very different type of problem, that is pacemakers, right? The sinoatrial node all of a sudden stopped working. The sun all of a sudden stopped rising the next day, right? So, I mean, it has been rising all along, doesn't mean that it has to rise tomorrow, right? Suddenly it stops rising. Something like that, the AV node, SA node, the connections can be, say they are totally blocked. We need an external thing to initiate heartbeats. So heart has an intrinsic initiator, sinoatrial node. Something happens to that, or something happens to a node at the junction, AV junction. We need external things. So that is the pacemaker. Okay, let's quickly look at this pacemaker. Or at the end of the day, now you could easily go build this in a multi-sim and see, okay, how much power you should apply, how it gets amplified, gets stored in a capacitor, and then delivered to the torso. That you could easily see. Let's not get into a lot of details. Just go simulate this in multi-sim and you can get better graphs. One of the questions that they typically concerned about is what is the energy that you need to, energy that needs to be stored in the capacitor for each charging, because this charging discharging is important. Specifically, if you have the defibrillator within your heart, how long will the battery last? That is determined by how long does this, how much energy does it, a specific defibrillation pulse needs, right? So this calculation is very important. All it boils down to is energy is half CV square. right? This capacitance, voltage, square, and all that we know. So typically GATE, they frame a lot of questions specifically from this. They can frame questions from, what is the, we have a RC circuit, how long does it take to charge and all that, first order system, but even before getting there, see what is the energy required for a defibrillation pulse. So that's the first thing. Let's quickly go ahead and answer. Let's see where our current knowledge is. Yeah, okay. And Prince mentioned defibrillator circuit design is there in Multisim. So yeah, forget this this visual. Go to Multisim and play with it. That is the best place. Now let's quickly answer. Let's see where we stand. Yeah, what is the range? What is this thing? Couple of numbers and all we want. Let's see. Let's go one at a time. One, in case of a defibrillator, double square pulse type is used to. Okay, let's all guess, and the majority guess or whatever sounds reasonable. Let's enter and see if that is correct. Most of you are guessing B, so I'm also just going to enter. Go with the majority. Yes, B. So most of you are guessing B. Arrest ventricular fibrillation. See, notice this question is very specific. It says it's a double square wave pulse. Okay, so there is a distinction between a monophasic pulse and a biphasic pulse. Be aware of that. So you need typically you want to apply a constant potential, but because things are realistic, there is some leakage, kind of dies down. But there are two kinds of pulses. There is a monophasic pulse, just one positive voltage you apply to that, or sometimes you need to apply a biphasic pulse. Okay, so you apply a positive voltage, so current flows in one direction, then you reverse it so that current flows in the other direction. The reason to do this is many folds. One is this is conserves lesser energy as damages the heart and the surrounding tissue lesser. There is thermal injury, tissues get burnt up sometimes during this, but the damage is lesser compared to monophasic. This is done from we know that from trials. It also conserves less energy. So reason to go for that. The double square pulse, they refer to that. Yeah, arrest reverse flow of blood from ventricle to atrium. Restart heart rhythm. Let me go with B, but let's see what the answer is. Yeah, let's just go with B. In direct current defibrillator, pulse with a duration of 5 milliseconds is generated by means of typically you don't use clock and all that. Typically you need a cause for a pacemaker under certain conditions, specific types of pacemakers. Just have a capacitor discharging. So let me pick that. Energy produced by defibrillator. Where do we think here? Now all of us notice it's roughly 400 joules. So I suppose biphasic will be somewhat lesser, 100 joules or something like that. And then let go current. Yeah, this is let go current is now you're holding a live wire with both of your hands. There is a certain threshold based on which your muscles are not under your control. Your muscles are under the current's control, right? So even if you want to remove your finger, you cannot do that. That is known as the let go current. Kind of varies from men to women. It varies with frequencies, higher for men and women, and then also depends on weight. Okay, so in fact, all these answers are correct. It's actually a poor question. So let's not choose that. One of the following properties is the characteristic of metals when they are used as implant materials. What is it? I know they couldn't find, I think, 5 questions in the bioinstrumentation, so they inserted a biomaterials question quickly. B. Corrosion resistance. Metals are very corrosive. On the other hand, you put ceramics, they are corrosion resistance, right? Metals are corrosive. Things corrode. You put 2 coins, one rupee coin and 20 rupee coin together, they start becoming brown. They start corroding acid, acid formation. Typically, they are also not inert. Not all metals, but they have their strength is good. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. So the question that is really poorly faced is 4. Let's see how we did with other questions. 1, 4 also is Seems to be incorrect. Okay, yeah, 4 we did not answer. 1 is A. So what is 1? Yeah, this is a slightly, again, I would say a poorly framed question. Restart the heart rhythm after open heart surgery. But typically, this is biphasic wave also you need for ventricular fibrillation. Yes. So let's go to the simulator quickly. Yeah, I gave spoiler alerts for the simulation. There is one point that I want to show here. Okay. Now, so yeah, we have certain amount of resistance. This is approximately the body's resistance for conduction. If you approximate the body torso as a resistor, it should have this roughly this. The voltage you apply 5 kilovolts. You need to amplify that and apply. And roughly, okay, capacitance is this. You charge and then you apply, you have a signal like this. Okay. These numbers, 50 amps is what is shown here. I need to double check this number, but important number is, yeah, if you know the capacitance, if you know the voltage, you can calculate the energy. Okay, this is the most important detail here. Let's go to monophasic. So, monophasic, ideally we want a square wave, but because we have typically some resistance, finite resistance kind of dies down with a specific time constant, and we apply it for a short time span. Okay, the order of milliseconds. This is 4 milliseconds is the space. And the energy calculations for this, if you approximate assume C to be a constant, half CV square, at least that's the initial energy, that corresponds to 412 joules. But if this is a biphasic defibrillator, the pulses are going to look like this. And okay, here we have like just one thing. So whatever the capacitor will charge, you're going to use the same capacitor here. So the energy also remains the same. But the moment we go to a pacemaker, that when we do this rhythmically, these calculations will change. Okay. So here charging once to half CV square, that energy is being used. So the energy here doesn't really change. Okay. So monophasic, biphasic, not much of a big difference. Quickly post-test questions, let's at least, if there are good questions, let's quickly answer that. Cardioverter is a combination of cardioverter is, you need both ECG and defibrillator, right? Approximate electrode size for ohmic resistance, 50 to 100 ohms. This question you can easily answer. 100 square centimeter, 10,000 square centimeter, where do you put it in the body? Doesn't make sense. 4,500 square centimeter also, even if you come up with that electrode, where do you put it? 80 is what sounds reasonable. Electrodes required in case of defibrillator. Where do you put the electrodes? You need, two sides of the heart. Roughly, okay. So either posterior and anterior won't hold good. So left and right or anterior posterior is what I would choose. Defibrillator, let's skip this thing, restoring functionality. Defibrillator energy stored in the thing depends on capacitance, voltage. So capacitance and voltage. So yeah, this is pretty straightforward. Yeah, these numbers, be ready to guess this, okay? Even if you really don't know, this number is observed. This number is observed for electrode size. Okay, 10 centimeters is 10 by 10 is only this size. And these numbers don't make sense. So start rolling with that. Okay, so that is our quickly our defibrillator. Now let's compare it with pacemakers. Yeah, pacemakers. Now we have a couple of examples here. What is going on here is this gap. Now we have a P wave we have this P R interval or Q or S, and then we have the T wave. Okay? And then supposed to be the P wave, this thing. The problem here is the distance between P and R is actually slightly longer. Healthy heart, roughly 200 milliseconds, but here it's actually much longer. So the AV node is not really working or working very slowly. To compare that with here, yeah, see, this is an example where uh, the yeah, we kind of completely skipped a beat, and then ventricles can pump out of sync of this thing. Let's try to read this. It's slightly hard with this inverse problem, but we have P QRS T, then P QRS T. T, there is a delay QRS T. Then this T is very close to this P. Then P along this thing QRS T. Yeah, the next P kind of disappeared here, totally disappeared here. So um, during this refractory period, we have a signal, the AV node is not conducting here, we totally skipped a bit. Then we have PQRST. In this cases, we need to overrule the AV node. So we put pacemakers. Typically, we have two kinds of pacemakers, asynchronous and synchronous. These are actually not, terminology here is kind of bad. I will give you much better terminology. But asynchronous roughly says, doesn't mind about the heart. Things say SA node is totally gone, nothing to interfere with, nothing from the heart to interfere with the pacemaker. So it determines the rhythm. Synchronous pacemaker, it tries to hear from the heart where it is, and then if the heart fails, it tries to pace. Okay, and roughly, yeah, we have like complete heart blocks, AV, SA block, AV block, then too fast, too slow, arrhythmias, ventricular arrhythmias, you don't use it. Atrial arrhythmias, you use it, and things like this. Yeah, ideally, you want to apply a voltage like this, but due to some finite resistance, you end up applying a voltage that kind of dies with time, decays with time. And again, here we have a voltage and a resistance, right? So we model this. It's not we almost apply a constant voltage and see what happens to dissipation in a resistor. So energy power is V square by R. Energy used up here is V square by R into time. That is energy. And typically for a single pulse, we use about, if we have it for 0.5 milliseconds, we have about 25 microjoules. And pacemakers, you directly apply that in the surface of the heart. This is, in current terms, is known as a micro shock, applied to where you feel the shock, not a macro shock on the surface of the body. Okay, so this is notice much orders lesser than what we use in a defibrillator, and also the purpose is also much different. Not totally, get back the heart to track, just minor sparks to initiate heartbeats. Okay, let's quickly see MCQs here to compare and contrast. Adams-Stokes attacks can be successfully treated. Adams-Stokes. Anyone? At least you could quickly Google what is Adams-Stokes and answer. Just because this is showing up under pacemaker, I'm going to choose what pacemaker. You could go see what Adams-Stokes is. Typically, I suppose it's a conduction problem. Myocardial infarction, one can use heart-lung machine. Myocardial infarction, kidney mission, nerve simulator. Locally, if you want to pace and correct things, pacemaker. Yeah, this question is, what you can, numbers like this, recall-based numbers, you want to be aware of. To produce a ventricular contraction with an electrical pulse, minimum energy required is, yeah, this is a micro shock. The orders are much lesser. First of all, rule out watts, milliwatts. We are talking about energy. Rule out power, joule or microjoule. No, it's a micro shock. So, yeah, some of you might have thought, 10 milliwatt, but we are asking about energy. So just rule C and D. It's either A and B, it's like much lesser. Suppose the pacemaker pulse is high energy occurs during the vulnerable part of the T wave. Yeah, we spoke about this in class. ventricular fibrillation. So notice during the T wave we have what is known as a vulnerable part. In fact, let me go back here. Yeah, see this we initiated a wave, and that wave this is a wave front, and this is the there is a leading edge is on this side. This is a trailing edge. When the this is about, you are about to go to sleep in the day, there is this mosquito that comes and disturbs you. That's it, your whole sleep is gone. Okay, so in the trailing edge you initiate some disturbance, you get into this ventricular fibrillation. And the trailing edge for, of course, our heartbeats, one of these figures, where do we have that? Yeah, the trailing edge for, that is, when does the heart excitation subside? This is during the T wave. Things are going back to rest. At that time, you go disturb it, that's it. In fact, it's best shown here. The spiral wave was initiated that way. In fact, you can note, you can see the disturbance here. Heart is trying to rest, electrical activity. That time you go put a pulse, pacemaker pulse, that's it. You are likely to have ventricular fibrillation. This is one reason to get ECG from the heart, see where the heartbeat is, and then pace. And being synchronous is very hard. And the commonest source of energy for a pacemaker is solar cell, nuclear battery. Okay, ultimately energy is coming from solar, but not nuclear. Yeah, nuclear, solar energy is nuclear, not the case. We don't use dry cell. I suppose it's a mercury battery. Okay, so we got 5 out of 5. Doesn't really, matter. Let's see if there are any interesting questions here. Because of the risk of electromagnetic interference, pacemaker patients should not be given. This is a nice question. Now, someone has a pacemaker, and then, so what treatment you can't give to them? Cancer treatment, diathermy, saline water, and then the rooms with fans. See, cancer treatment, whether it's light, whether it's chemo, right? So there are variations here, but diathermy specifically is heat treatment. And to generate that heat, you use electromagnetic waves. You have electromagnetic waves here, then you have, that can easily create electromagnetic interference. Saline water, okay, you're not going to do. Rooms with fans, not an issue. Rooms with MRI emissions typically are an issue with, at least older pacemakers, many generations of pacemakers. Right. Case of stable total AV block. The AV block is totally blocked. A pacemaker is chosen with constant frequency, that is atrial synchronous, that is ventricular synchronous with variable frequency and synchronization with ventricular action. Okay, this is also a nice question. That is, AV node is blocked. How do you pace that heart? You don't want to pace it with a constant frequency. Okay, let me help you with this. Because now, based on your body is increasing your heart rate, decreasing your heart rate, you want your ventricles to work in sync with the atrium. If you put a constant frequency, the atrium is pumping at a certain frequency based on current environment and all that. Your heart rate changes will go out of sync, ventricles and atrium. So this is certainly incorrect. How about that is atrial synchronous? Yeah, you try to synchronize with the atrium. See, when the atrium got initiated, after some delay, when the AV node is supposed to get the signal, use that delay and pace the AV node if possible. And often, yeah, the AV node, close to AV node, this bundle is possible. So this, that is a ventricular synchronous. AV node is blocked. So the ventricles are not going to pump unless you pace it. So this doesn't make sense. With variable frequency and synchronization with ventricular action, again, this doesn't make sense. Okay, this is the best option. Any questions here? Let me show a visual for that. You have a stable AV node block. So this node is blocked. So the atrium is going to contract properly, but that won't get propagated to the ventricles. So you have to initiate a region somewhere over here so that ventricles properly contract, and you can't sync it with the ventricles. The ventricles, unless something else paces it, ventricles cannot get active because this region is blocked. So what you do is you synchronize it with the atrium. After a delay of the SA node activation, you initiate here. So that is atrial synchronization. Okay, these are all fine. Natural pacemaker, SA node, electrical symbols that triggers each heartbeat, SA node, sine atrial node. This is fine. Most important case of external pacemaker, power source battery, choice of electrode types, size and weight. Typically, it should be all of the above from a design aspect. Okay, so I think that is with the pacemakers. Oh no, there is one simulation detail we want to show. Okay, few things are, yeah. Why is 2 incorrect? What are they saying? You have to do it with A1. Okay, that will run into trouble. Stable AV node block. SA node is still active. This will run into trouble. You should make it atrial synchronous. So I don't take this. But see again is technically all these things are design aspects are important. Fine. Then pacemaker. Let's look at one important detail. Yeah. Now notice we have I started with a asynchronous pacemaker, so it is not going to take cues from the heart at all. It's going to pace rhythmically. So interestingly, asynchronous will pace every here roughly 750, 780 or something like that. It's going to send a pulse. Okay, and what we have here is a monophasic pulse. Pulse rate is 75 beats per minute. Voltage is this, pulse width is 0.5 milliseconds. Fine. The energy corresponding to this is V square by R into pulse width. This is time. Okay, and we have this amount of energy here. Now, the moment you change this to biphasic, again, pulsing allocation can be monophasic, or you don't want to cause inflammation at that electrode location over a course of long term, over a course of months or years. Typically, you also pulse it biphasically. That is, you have a positive pulse followed by a negative pulse. Notice for a biphasic pulse, the energy for a specific pulse now is twice V square RT, V square T by R. This is because you have a pulse in the forward direction, you have a pulse in the reverse direction. And this is not the energy calculation from the capacitance initially stored. This is dissipation as the pulse is applied. V square by R into time taken for it. And that energy kind of doubles for biphasic. Okay. Be wary of this keyword. If they ask you to calculate energy of a pulse in a pacemaker, whether the keyword biphasic is used or monophasic is used is extremely important. Okay, and biphasic would typically be a trap. If it mentions biphasic, you will be applying twice the pulse width's energy. So okay, this is just stimulus, and then of course we have the ECG. What do they have for synchronous? Yeah, synchronous. Now, okay, they try to simulate ECG. Then I suppose if there are missing beats, there will be pulses. Are there any missing beats? Quickly, come on. Yeah. Notice here let's say there is a P wave. There is no, the ventricles didn't. There is no QRS. Let's say. Then there is a pulse. It detected there is a missing QRS and there is a pulse in here. So we have a QRS following that. Very, very bad simulation, but yeah, fine. That is this. So they synchronized it with the atrium. Then now things became normal again. Okay. And also notice over a battery life perspective, whether it's synchronous, asynchronous, now depends on, very different. This pulse is applied, once in a full moon when the beats are being skipped. But the asynchronous pacemaker is applied every beat. That's what governs every beat. Okay, again, that difference is there. Other than that, not a lot. Okay, 5 more minutes, we'll finish hemodialysis, and then we'll wind up. Hemodialysis was specifically, the simulation. The simulation is what I categorize this virtual lab into, the category I put it. The visuals are not good, numbers are not good. and then you have this thing. Typically, so the kidney cannot filter. The question is, can we source the filtration process to a machine, right? So we take blood that is going back, say from this artery, we send it to a machine so that whatever needs to be removed can be removed. And then the filtered blood, after some checks, typically you need some check for leaks, you need to check for any air bubbles and all that. Then you want to avoid clotting, so you infuse heparin and then you send it back to the blood. So you're outsourcing kidney's function to a dialyzer. That is typically what you do. Let's quickly see this. Okay, inflammation in the kidneys is called otitis, hepatitis, nephritis, toxemia. Itis refers to inflammation. Nephritis, there is a mistake here. This is nephritis. Yeah, see, but it's not a nephritis. It's nephronus. Nephritis is what we refer to. Most pumps of blood, what is this? Most blood pumps use the principle of what? You also need a blood pump for this. Centrifuge, compression, normal acceleration. It's a peristaltic compression. What you do is typically take a tube. You say you have something that applies a pressure. If it's imagine this toothpaste. You squeeze it and move it, right? The paste will come out of the side. That is peristaltic compression, and you typically put it in a circular geometry, not in a linear geometry. But yeah, peristaltic compression. Reduced hemolysis blood pump should provide a flow that minimizes. Yeah, you don't want the blood cells to. You don't want, it shouldn't be like a mixie that will like blend everything. You don't want the cells to be disrupted. So flow that minimizes oxygen tension, body temperature, continuous. It should be turbulence. Typically, there's turbulence, I suppose the thing will rise. Oxygen tension can manage body temperature to manage to some extent. Continuous flow also managed to some extent. Things are turbulent that cells cannot. The stresses are very high, so that typically the cells are damaged. Okay. Then in dialysis, the waste products are transferred by dialyzer by surface tension, centrifuge, diffusion, viscosity variation. This we all know, diffusion. Okay. Hemodialysis temperature system consists of heater element and switch, seals, housing, temperature gauge control. Usual temperature range is what in hemodialysis? Wouldn't we try to keep it at body temperature? 36 to 39, somewhere in the body temperature range. Okay, let's say A, but likely D. My guess would be D. Okay, let's submit this and see. Yeah, view solution, and that is D. You keep it at maintain at body temperature. So notice 37 point something, 36 to 39 is what you maintain the blood. Okay, simulator specifically, I suppose, is extremely bad. So let's not spend a lot of time. Okay, some visuals. So you take out the blood. Are you hearing this noise? Okay, hopefully, yeah, there are some air bubble detectors, this, that, and all that.
Can't hear, sir.
Good for you, because it's slightly annoying. But what is going on here is, yeah, you have a pump that controls, peristaltic pump that squeezes blood and controls the flow rate. Then you have control the blood pressure. Then this is how dialysis works. There is some interesting detail here. Okay, notice flow of blood is in this direction, from top to bottom. Dialysis, on the other way, flows from bottom to top. So this is clean dialysate fluid, which removes impurities from blood. Then it flows from bottom to top, and then the waste dialysate, battery dialysate, is sent this way. So this flows top to bottom, this flows bottom to top. That is known as a counter current flow. So that the exchange between dialysate, exchange is most efficient in the system. So that detail is over there. Then we have some checks and filters. You don't want any leaks. We don't want things to clot. We don't want any bubbles and all that. And yeah, what is going on? You apply a pressure, you have tiny pores. Some particles move through those pores. So we have this membranes, whatever is black line is shown here, we have thousands of them over here. so that you separate impurities from typically big ones or proteins that you want to retain. Okay. And, yeah, this is what happens in the dialysis machine. The counter current flow is important. Other than that, things are not that interesting. Let's quickly do this, and 2 minutes will wind up. Dialysis rate depends on blood flow rate, pressure, patient clinical history. What? What do you think? That is, how fast should you control this dialysis? It does matter, what the patient's clinical history is. Depends on pressure, depends on flow rate. Should be all of the above. Okay, rinsing of hemodialysis machine during pre and post treatment is done by the solution. Now we did dialysis. Now how do we clean it? Okay, we have a couple of answers. We use distilled water, we use bicarbonate solution. Concentrated H2SO4 is an acid. We don't want to mix that with a blood at all. Distilled water is fine. Bicarbonate is somewhat basic. So that is typically what you want to do. Mesh-like material used for filtration inside the dialyzer is known as fiber sheet, semi-permeable membrane, blood filtering, all of them. The semi-permeable membrane allows certain things. We know big molecules it will allow, small molecules it won't allow. So semi-permeable. Anti-clotting agent is hemodialyzer. What is the anti-clotting agent? I just mentioned this. The cheapest anticoagulants out there. The function of the kidney is excretion of unwanted substances, purification of blood, balance the substances in the blood. All of the above. Yeah, this is important. Kidney is actually doing a lot more than just removing waste things, purifying blood. It balances. It brings restores fluid balance and in turns blood pressure and blood volume. It plays a very important role. And typically, because of this reason, there are issues with kidneys. We also typically have issues with the heart. So problems occur together, cardio-renal problems. And now, of course, if there are issues with the heart, there are issues with other things also. Typically, lungs, blood vessels, and all that. So cardio-renal is very common because kidneys play a very important role. Submit this. Okay, 5 out of 5. Yeah, typically, this easy questions. Let's come to a crisp end. Yeah, there isn't a lot we could virtual labs, unfortunately, at a very, very initial stages. But few important basic details, whatever it could offer, I thought we managed to see that. And then some basic MCQs, recall-based questions. Let's stop here. I hope this session was useful. So later on, objective of this is to move towards things like this. Take different physiological systems. Okay, one day we'll spend, I'll give you a code for simulating pressure volume from a heart. Then look at all this PV parameters and all that. One day let's do that. And then someone asked for the link of this virtual lab, so I gave it in the chat. This is the main list. Okay, and so we'll progress towards visual and quantitatively rich simulations, and also, if possible, we'll also try to get hands-on signals, biomedical signals. We'll quick test measuring pressure, galvanic skin resistance, quick how to do classes sessions and all that. We'll do it. Yeah, that will take time, but yeah, in the meanwhile, let's do things like this productivity. Okay, hope this was useful. Certainly very different, diverse set of things, starting with multisim to patents and to this thing. And anyone stayed here from the starting? Meenakshi was here, the co-host. And so Prabha Akansha, great, Akansha, Swarnendu, great, okay. And Prabha is here. Okay, quick comments from either Meenakshi or Swarnendu. How do you like this session, and how do you want? We are not going to repeat things, but we will build and improvise and build sophistication, more information, richness, and all that. How do you want things to be? So how was this? What more do you want? Let's go one at a time.
Actually, it was really an amazing session, sir. Knowing sir, something different about patterns and multisim, everything which is going to be useful in future, sir.
Mhm.
And not only that, but also the simulation and all. While we are studying theoretical biomedical instrumentation, apart from that, when we simulate all these things, practically we could able to know something useful, sir. So I guess this is a better useful session for us, sir.
Okay, great, Meenakshi. And Swarnendu,
Yeah, so as Meenakshi said, it was very informative, especially when Abhishek came and gave a brief explanation
Mhm.
about how to do patenting and all. That was very helpful, very informative.
Mhm.
And also thanks to Prince for giving us like a demonstration of multisim. Like I used to use multisim before, so I also got to brush up my knowledge all over again. Then the simulation, the virtual labs that you have conducted, that was also very helpful, and I'm really looking forward to the future sessions of the virtual labs, like when we will be doing some actual simulations and seeing things more
Yeah.
clearly.
Mhm. Okay, great, Swarnendu. In fact, some of the plans are, one day let's do image processing. That is, can we do some simple classification? Let's all do that. Run. So I'll share the code, tell you how to run it, do the experiment parallelly, learn image processing one day. Then one day let's learn some simulations of heart, of the entire body circulatory system, then of say heart attacks, ECG, one at a time. Then one day let's quickly build a ECG device, pressure sensor, basic things like that, and then and there check things, galvanic skin resistance. So these are some of the things in the agenda, in fact, this year I'm not likely to find that much time, but once this year's gate stabilizes, next year I'll find lots of time, so we can spend diverse applications of biomedical engineering, hands-on things, interactive sessions. Will certainly have special sessions. So yeah, okay, that's good to know. So then okay, that's a very positive note. I think it is good to take part. All of you others have a great weekend and a great week off. We'll meet again. Okay, have a good one.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, bye everyone. Bye.